Now, welcome to another of my Sunday commentary videos, which means I'll once again be straying away a bit from the galaxy far, far away and talking more so about the real world, though as usual, this will sort of relate back to Star Wars and other similar properties. In other words, if you're just here for my more fun in-universe stuff or reviews and speculation, feel free to skip this video and come back next time. Okay, so as tends to be the case with these videos, what's brought it on was something that happened online a few days ago that left me kind of shaking my head and thinking this is worth bringing up and discussing. And that something that happened was the official Marvel Captain America Twitter page, which, I'll be honest, I didn't even know that was a thing. Well, they basically changed their profile from Sam Wilson Captain America to Captain Carter. And some of you are probably already thinking they just did this as a marketing ploy. They did it to promote their premiere episode of a new What If series on Disney Plus, where the big change is Peggy Carter gets injected with the super soldier serum and basically becomes Captain America, or Captain Britain, though they never actually call her that in the episode. Essentially, she takes the place of Steve Rogers, and the episode shows what would have happened in that case. But there were, of course, some or many on Twitter who didn't see it that way at all. Plenty that were quite upset that Disney or Marvel or whoever technically even made the change would have the audacity to do this. The audacity to temporarily replace one fictional character with another for marketing purposes on a Twitter account of all things. To replace Sam Wilson with Peggy Carter in order to, again, promote an upcoming show. And I say temporarily because it's since been changed back, probably sooner than they otherwise would have done thanks to the outcry, where some made it sound like their world was ending or like this was the worst thing they ever could have possibly done, even though I'm sure it was always their intent to revert it back to Sam Wilson. And if you're not even entirely sure what the problem was here or why some people were so upset, well, there was one comment that I saw that summed up what the fuss was pretty much all about. And it said something along the lines of, Disney just couldn't wait to replace a black face with a white face. Which is a comment that I find a little, I don't know if ironic is the right word, but I find it ironic for a couple reasons. The first of which being that there's almost this admission that goes along with the comment, one that says they, or the people upset, know or believe that whenever Disney promotes, say, a black character, they're doing it more so to placate and pander than anything else. They, Disney, don't actually care about promoting black characters. They care because it sells and makes them look good or makes them look virtuous. And you then have people who will buy it or go to see the movies or watch the show or buy merchandise or whatever it might be just because a certain character or one who looks a certain way is in it. They don't seem to care about the story or the property, just the representation. I mean, if they did get into the story, I'd imagine they would instantly recognize and accept marketing when they saw it, which is again why Peggy Carter replaced Sam Wilson for a time, to draw attention to a show, to sell a show. I mean, it's almost like they know and admit the whole thing with diversity and representation is a sham, but they don't care. They only get upset when Disney doesn't sell the sham well enough to be believed by the masses. Like they think what Disney and others are supposed to be doing with their properties is sell an agenda and not provide entertainment, which, no surprise, doesn't sit well with those who mainly want to be entertained or who genuinely care about and get into the actual stories. Which leads us to maybe the most ironic part of all here, which is that there is that other side, for lack of a better way of putting it, that does just care about the story and thinks almost the exact opposite is true in most cases. That believes, right or wrong, that Disney is always oh so eager to replace a white face with a face of pretty much any other color. And they do it just to, yes, you guessed it, placate and pander or to appear virtuous. That since social justice has become the thing in the last decade, which I'm not necessarily saying is a bad thing, and especially it's become the thing in the last 6 years or so, that they're riding that wave for profits. And so this, the changing of the Captain America Twitter page of all things, is one of those rare times when the two sides of this issue or debate are almost on the same side or are both seeing the same thing. They're both seeing the truth behind the curtain, that the whole thing is about marketing and making money. That's it. That they really don't care, but they sure want to look like they do, like they're the good guys. And all the while that they're pretending to care, they're counting their millions and billions of dollars, a good portion of which is made in China, where they're certainly not all about diversity, are they? Not when the character of Finn gets shrunk and pushed to the side on the Chinese Star Wars posters, because they know putting him front and center will be a turnoff to Chinese viewers. And so if they really cared, if they really wanted to see things changed for the better and weren't all about the money, they'd put morals and progress before profit. They would release a Star Wars poster in China where Finn was front and center and said, "This is our hero, and if you don't like it, don't watch the movie." But then again, they certainly didn't make Finn the big hero of the new Star Wars trilogy, did they? Even though they heavily implied in The Force Awakens marketing that he'd become a Jedi, almost as if they wanted to pander to black audiences and those who care more about diversity than Star Wars itself. Like they just wanted to put butts in seats and didn't have any sort of plan or intent to do anything special with Finn, which John Boyega, the actor who played Finn, rather famously called Disney out for. Which was yet another one of those rare times when the two sides almost saw eye to eye and agreed. And you had the one side yelling you ended up only using John Boyega as a token black character, and the other side was like, yeah, that's kind of what we've been saying all along. That's why we're upset. They didn't care about making him a good character. They only cared about including him because it'd score points with all of you. And that if they had made him a great character, we'd not only be fine with him, we'd happily embrace him, embrace this character. And that's because, and yes, this goes beyond Star Wars, but to many of them, most of them, if not almost all of them, color doesn't matter as much as character, and I think someone else said something like that once upon a time. But anyway, as I've said before, it's hard to broach topics like these because any type of questioning of diversity is immediately called bigotry by some, which is how these companies want it. They love that they have a Twitter army ready to go to bat for them and attack anyone who questions diversity or questions their motive behind it. And so something like what happened with the Captain America Twitter page, seeing their defenders turn into attackers and call them out, it had to scare them, and I'm sure it wasn't what they were expecting when they made the change. Because even though, yeah, more or less, I think this was just marketing or promoting their new show, in the back of their mind they thought they'd probably score some points by putting a female Captain America up there, and now they're probably wishing they could have put a black female Captain America up there. That would have really scored them some points. And don't get me wrong here, many who do bring up questions about diversity, though certainly not all of them, they do so in a way that comes off feeling like they are against it and are attacking it. Many do play off the feelings and emotions of their readers or viewers or listeners and purposely get their audience angry to keep them coming back for more. And yes, a few of them I think have really good intentions but get so lost that they forget what they were originally fighting for or against, and they get to the point where pretty much any time a woman or a minority gets a role, they are automatically saying it's woke, and so they kind of become or look like what the other side claims them to be. But a very similar thing does also happen on that other side. I think some people care, I don't necessarily want to say too much, but the caring and the fight against something on the larger or macro scale becomes what it's all about. Not actually helping people or making change on the micro level or in their personal lives where they can. Many start just wanting to look good, especially online, instead of just being good or doing good. They have to shove it in your face. I mean, words on Twitter are easy. Getting out there and actually helping people is not. And so, no, your witty 280 character or less tweet that gets 1,000 likes from people who already think exactly as you do isn't actually changing the world, but it's sure making you feel good about yourself, isn't it? And so what ends up happening is the two sides drift further and further apart, or further towards the extremes, and the extremes keep getting more and more extreme until any sort of common ground is so far away it can no longer be seen. Even when it hits us over the head, which it did with the John Boyega thing, or what happened recently with the Captain America Twitter account. We all saw Disney for what they were in both those cases. But we don't want to actually agree, and so we just keep arguing, and it all feeds on itself or off itself, because when one side says something crazy, the other calls it out, and then oftentimes says something even more crazy in return, which then allows the other side to, you guessed it, respond and say something even more crazy. And all of this keeps audiences worked up and listening instead of anyone looking for any sort of solution or willing to discuss what's actually going on and why they're upset. All the while, Disney again is counting their money. But it's like the saying goes, there's no money in the cure, only the treatment. And so if you're profiting off the culture war, if you're bringing in big dollars because of it, do you really want to see it end? And look, no matter what side you fall on or what your beliefs are, I think we can all agree that there are absolutely things in this world that could change for the better. And sometimes I think we look in the way wrong places for solutions or just completely miss the bigger picture and bicker pointlessly about things that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. I mean, when it comes to diversity in entertainment or characters being certain races or genders or sexualities so that people can see themselves represented on screen, well, many see that as a huge deal. Many think it's extremely important that everyone should be able to see themselves on screen. And though I don't think it's unimportant, I do think it's completely missing the bigger problem, which is that if a child or even an adult needs to see someone like them in a superhero movie to feel self-worth or like they could be seen in the real world, then they have been failed somewhere else along the way in their life. And I'm not so sure a movie of all things is going to fix or even should be what fixes that which troubles them or makes them feel that way in the first place. And to be clear, that is not an argument against diversity on screen. It's saying the top-down approach, instead of looking for the root cause of why they feel that way in the first place, or why they're growing up or have grown up feeling this way, is not going to fix the problem. Hollywood putting certain people on screen and then saying, oh, look, we're making things better, we're helping make the world a better place, now come watch our movie and please buy some merchandise, is one of the most ludicrous things I've ever heard. It reeks of ridiculous self-importance and is just about selling a product. Which isn't to say they shouldn't be allowed to sell that product or that connecting with a film or a character in it can't do any good whatsoever. It certainly can. Stories are important and people can absolutely be inspired by the characters within them. Heck, it's one of the reasons we tell stories in the first place, to inspire, to dare people to dream. But if that on-screen fictional character is the only inspiration in someone's life, if seeing that is the first time they feel good about themselves, then like I said, they've been failed elsewhere. They likely have problems in their life that no movie is going to fix. Because another problem with the push for diversity is they all too often put idealized versions on screen. They don't show the struggle, they show how nice it would be without the struggle. And just because a character is shown on screen in a fictional story and that they're able to do something, it doesn't actually mean or say something about the person who looks like them in real life. Characters in a movie doing things or becoming something is not proof of anything. I mean, imagine if and I've used this example before, but what if I said the character Tony Stark or Iron Man was proof that all middle-aged white men can be superheroes? How do you think some people would respond to that claim? In fact, I think it's rather odd, if not flat out wrong, to imply that just because a character looks like or has the same orientation or whatever else it might be, that you can and should relate to them. It almost implies there's nothing unique or special about you, not if everything about you and everyone else who looks like you in some way can be packaged and put on screen and perfectly expressed in a 2-hour movie about superheroes of all things. Which again, not an argument against having a diverse cast of characters. I am all for it. I'm just trying to point out how ridiculous this has all become. That you have those buying into this belief that those in the film industry or Hollywood suddenly care about diversity, when it's still the same people who have been in charge forever and didn't care about it until a few years ago, until it started to sell. And so now they've convinced some to consume things they don't really even care all that much about, all for the sake of diversity and representation. And in some cases they even defend these movies and these characters, though they don't actually care about the movies and the characters. These companies have convinced many people that they are fighting the good fight for them just because they're putting someone in a movie that looks like them and then they're asking you to buy it. And as I like to say, be wary of anyone who convinces you there's a problem and then wants to sell you the solution. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Hopefully you got something out of this video. But now it's your turn to weigh in on any and all of this and tell me what you think. So do leave a comment below and let's actually talk about all this. And until next time, thanks for watching.